Good evening and welcome to Taking It to the Streets. My name is Ian Mishaw, the host of this program. Each and every week we come on, try to bring local issues and local events that are happening here in the city of Waterbury. And before we get started, I would like to say that anybody out in watching this show, if Thursday nights, there's Tom Hill at 7 o'clock. He has a live show. He's back on public access. Also, Wednesdays at 6 on Facebook Live, you have Dawn Myrano and Snarky Steve. They do a show, great show, a lot of information. So tune into that Wednesdays at 6 on Facebook. Today I have a Board of Ed member, Tom Van Stone. Tom, thanks so much for coming on the show tonight. And I know I appreciate it, and I'm sure the viewers will too.
I hope they do.
I'm sure they will. So I know you're on the Board of Ed. You just won. It was quite an election on Tuesday.
Yeah, I tell you, the numbers were impressive. Quite honestly, I do have to give it to the Democrats. You know, as much as we thought this was going to be a good year, that we could maybe sneak in one or two, which would, of course, could potentially affect that supermajority over on the Board of Aldermen. It didn't necessarily happen, although I think there's enough voices there that it could approach it on certain issues. So it could be interesting across, as I call it, across the street from us in the Chase building to City Hall. Interesting there. We on the Board of Ed, the majority will stay with the Democrats. We had some really good candidates on the Republican side. I'll be joined in my reelection with a newcomer, Terrence Lott Jr., who's a name around town, of course, through basketball and all that, his whole family. And he's going to join. I think he's going to be a great addition. Former Waterbury cop, now a Danbury cop, young family. So he's, has that young interest in the city, which I like seeing them, the young folks come out. Unfortunately, we had one other candidate, Lori Medina, who I really thought could have been an excellent Board of Ed commissioner. She runs her own daycare. She's an assistant pastor along with her father at a church here in Waterbury, a very solid citizen, and I think her future's ahead of her in politics. It's the first time ever. She actually came forward for us because we lost the candidate after our convention on the Board of Ed side, and she stepped up and just in a few weeks worked very hard and did well. Latoya Ireland will come back to the Board of Education, one of my fellow commissioners. She got reelected, her first reelection, so it'll be her second term. And a couple newcomers that they had on that I'm looking forward to working with. I've met them a couple times at some of the community events. And it would be a young board. We'll have 3 brand new commissioners on our board. And we also have 2 commissioners that have only been replacement for people who stepped down that only have about 6 months.
Really?
So you got 2 6 months, 3 never have been on the board. So there's half our board right there.
So the board has 10 members?
10 members. We do 5 and 5 at each election every 2 years, and we have 4-year terms. But we split so that we don't get a full new board. Just the way we do business, and we can get into it, is so much different than the aldermen. We could talk about a little bit along the way with some of our topics. I'll kind of explain how the board works on those topics and see where we go. But so yes, we'll have 5 pretty much newbies. Latoya will be starting her second term, so she has 4 years. We also have one current commissioner that only has 2 years on the board.
Wow.
And then, of course, you have Rocco Orso, who's been on the board 6 years.
Oh, Rocco's still there?
Rocco's still there. He has 6 years now. He was elected 2 years ago to his second term. So he has 6 years under his belt. And then there's myself and Liz Brown.
Liz is still there.
Liz is still there. She actually has 2 years more than me. I have 12 years on the board. She has 14.
Is she the senior member?
She's a senior member with 14 years, and I'm second with 12.
Wow, so you've seen it all.
I've seen a lot in my 12 years. This is now my 3rd superintendent. So yes, I've been around long enough for that, and we could take it from there. We both came with blank notepads because you and I have never shied away from a microphone.
No, not at all.
Or a camera.
Yeah. Well, getting back to the election, yeah, the Board of Aldermen, it's going to be a different board now. the mayor basically lost control of 2 seats with Feliciano and McCarthy. They basically ran on their own. They were endorsed, but they ran on their own. I had Raphael as a guest last week, and some of his ideas on the way the board is run, and as far as caucusing, which is a big thing to me,
Yes, it is.
because you'll have an executive session, and then they go in the back room. They'll talk for who knows how long, come out, yays, they raise their hand, everybody goes home. You don't even know what they're voting on. It'd be nice to know. So Raphael told me he's not going to caucus. He's going to ask all his questions out in front of the camera.
Well, you could do both. You can do both. Certainly, we don't caucus on the Board of Ed at all. We do have executive session, but no votes are taken. That's for different reasons. We do it for mainly personnel matters or security matters, because obviously the personnel matters. There's certain things that you're looking at resumes, this and that, and it's to respect the people that maybe you're going to hire. And then security issues, of course, I always say that if the public knows your whole security plan, you don't have a security plan. So, and I know you wanted to touch on some of the security problems we've had in the schools, so we could do that as well.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I know that one of my biggest issues to talk about, which is why I'm sitting here tonight, is the Palace Theater, the complete lack of programming, breaking all the agreements in the operating agreement. They're supposed to have so many shows a year, which they don't. I know WAMS is a big part of that agreement. And, if we could talk about the Palace a little bit, I know that you brought out some information to me concerning the separation of the utilities. I said for years and years that the utilities were tied together, that the city is paying the utilities for the Palace Theater Group to use. And I was told, no, that's not true. Well, come to find out it was true. So why don't you explain a little bit about what happened there?
Well, we were using ARPA funding. Many people refer to the COVID funding. It's kind of its nickname. It was a Rebuild America program. It was part of the title is Rescue Plan. So in theory, it was nice that it came out at that time. It was a lot of money. So what it got exposed when we were using it mainly for putting in newer or brand new, in some cases in our older schools, a full, HVAC system. My big thing was air exchangers. We did the air conditioning, the new heating, but the air exchanger for me was the big one, because that's really, hopefully never have a pandemic again. But your everyday flus and colds, et cetera, that are obviously around schools.
Worst place to go to catch something is a school.
That's why I wanted the air exchangers, to make sure we had the full system there. So that aside, in my process of always reviewing what it was we were getting into, it's when it came to me that our system and the Palace system were not only just tied, they were affecting each other. So if the Palace, say, had a big event, whenever that might be, I'll throw you a bone on that one.
Not too often, but go ahead.
Yeah. Of course, with a big crowd, even if it's winter, you're probably gonna run air conditioning, because you may have 2,000 people in the room, right? So now our students will come in the morning on a February day,
Breathing Palace air.
not just breathing Palace air, but freezing cold, because the one system was running AC. Okay, so they were totally joined together, one controller. So they bring it to me, this is our plan. We're gonna, put in controllers for each set of buildings. Everything would get separated when we redo the HVAC system. And I said, well, wait a minute, why are education rebuild funds from the federal government paying for the Palace Theater, who has the Palace Theater Group, which when you read the contract that we have with them, they're required to take care of any major upgrades. Well, I consider an HVAC system a major upgrade, no? I would think.
Sure.
So I was glad we were separating, but I said, I don't want our education portion of this paying for the Palace Theater's new air conditioner.
Could go to another school or something.
Could do plenty, because it's big bucks. It's big bucks. The separation was great. Thank you for doing that. I don't want to pay for their side of it. Mayor O'Leary was still in office. He heard it when I stated it, came out and actually gave me credit, which didn't happen a whole lot of times, but he gave me credit for saying, Commissioner Van Stone's correct. School funds should not pay for that side. He goes, so the city ARPA funds will pay for it. And I said, well, look, I don't believe that it's the right thing to do because I've read the contract. However, that's up to the Board of Aldermen. I worry about the Board of Education. So I wasn't going to step over to another board and get involved in it. Now you know what's going on. It's up to you to do something about it. I don't believe it did. I believe the city ARPA funds paid for that upgrade. Again, I stepped aside once I knew our money and our air conditioning was not connected, because that's my job. My
Right.
job as a Board of Commissioners is not to go to the Board of Aldermen and yell at them to say, you better look at that air conditioner. They knew the information at that point, and how they dealt with it is up to them. So we did separate it, but again, we were about to pay for their upgrade. I was the only one that brought it up. Only one.
So you saved
It never even
the
went to a
education
vote.
department millions.
Millions. It never even went to a vote. It got separated without ever
It
coming to
never
the
went
floor.
to a vote at the Board of Aldermen.
I don't know what they did. Again, I stayed away from them. It never came to a vote before the Board of Ed because I got it out of the contract and we only ended up reviewing and going ahead with our school piece. What happened over there, I stepped away from. Now, there were some cost savings by having it one system with separate controllers. So I wasn't going to argue that piece. But how that got paid for was then up to the Board of Aldermen. I don't believe the palace paid for it, though.
No, I'm sure they didn't. Do you have any idea how much that cost?
Oh, wow. Our systems were in the tens of millions of dollars no matter what school we're at. And keep in mind, some of our schools are 100 years old. And Palace is a little age now. It's been around, and people are surprised, that it's been around well over 20 years already. It's still in very good condition. But then when you start looking at our other schools, Walsh, Washington.
Oh, the old schools,
Driggs.
forget it.
Well, we're doing it. We're doing a lot has to be done on the outside, a lot has to be done on the roof, which again, now we have to check the roofs and make sure they could support the systems. So it's in tens of millions of dollars. Fortunately, it was all done on ARPA funding. But we did along the way find problems. Kennedy, we had problems. I took a tour there when they found one issue. The air conditioning was basically falling apart. We ended up finding problems when we removed ducting at the pool. Things were falling apart. So, and I blame whoever inspected the job, whoever inspected out the job. I'm not happy with, and now I'm looking even closer when we get a new contract that I want to inspect out properly. I don't like surprises. We have contingency funds, but I don't like surprises. But it's costing us a lot of money. But if you want to go back to the Palace, I'm more than willing to. We also write them a check every year out of our operating budget, not any special funding, operating budget, $250,000 every year.
$250. And I know that they gave me a list of their performances, allegedly. They have Wham Stage. 3 years ago, they were there 28 times. 2 years ago, 37. Last year, 32. That's what they
And
said.
there's some daytime activities too, rehearsals, et cetera. But those are probably right around those numbers. But if you divide that by $250,000, we're paying a pretty good stage fee.
Well, it doesn't make any, I mean, they're just saying this here, these numbers, but, I mean, if they did 28, you're paying $250, that's almost $10,000 every time the kids from Wham's walk into the Palace. So if they're having a rehearsal for a play or a graduation, that's 10 grand, and it's our school.
Well, we also use it for all our graduations now, and I think that's great for the kids to have that kind of setting, for their graduation.
Well, it should, well,
But it's still, when you divide it up by $250,000, I don't think we're getting a bang for the buck, and I bring it up every year.
no, we're not getting a bang for the buck. But that, again, was also in the Palace agreement,
It was part of the Palace agreement, and
as far as doing graduations.
yes,
They're supposed to.
right.
Charge nothing.
We don't pay after that $250, but you're still doing the math and saying we're paying a pretty good amount of money to hold these graduations.
Right, but before 2018, it's my understanding that they didn't have any graduations
Only Whams.
at the only Whams. And I was told by somebody with some inside knowledge back in 2018 that Waterbury Career Academy paid the Palace $5,000 to graduate there that year.
I'm not aware of that payment.
That's what I was told. I brought that out.
Whams or Career Academy wouldn't have the money to write a $5,000 check. They would have to come before the board, and I don't recall that happening. I could take a look when I go back.
Yeah,
to
well,
the
you could,
records.
but that's what I was told. I brought that out, and next thing you know, everybody's graduating at the Palace, and it's not costing anything.
Mm-hmm.
But it's right in the agreement that they're supposed to be doing all these graduations for nothing.
There's, the agreement we have with the Palace for schools has never been brought back before the board. Its mayoral signature is Mike Jarjura,
03.
so it's been around that long. There's always been the on the street rumors that it was started out as just sending them money to help them get like seed money, and
Palace.
it was kind of being detoured through education. I wasn't on the board back then, but that's the on the street rumor. But it's never gone away.
No,
It's never gone away.
it hasn't gone away.
It's $250,000 every single year,
20 years is 5 million?
Millions. Even since I've been on the board.
5
it's
million?
millions.
So the kids could use a city building?
Every 4 years is $1 million.
Every 4 years is $1 million. It's hard to believe, isn't it? I can't believe, I mean,
In the contract, we actually are supposedly paying a portion of the director's salary in our contract.
in your, you have a separate contract?
We have a separate contract for schools, $250,000.
And with the Palace, you're paying a portion of the director's
When you
salary?
break down what's in it, and I can't say it's followed dollar for dollar, but technically one of the line items in the contract is a piece of the director's salary.
It's unbelievable. I heard also that in addition to the Board of Ed giving $250 to the Palace, that WAMS itself gives money to the Palace.
No, just our money. But some of the things that bother me about the contract is it also talks about like the cleanup after our performances, whatever they may be. And I told him, I said, well, we could take that line item out and I'll use that for discipline. You know, when kids act up, let them clean the Palace after the show. That's what the nuns would have done to me. But obviously that didn't go over well, and obviously never got done.
No. But at least...
That was a long time ago I made that comment.
Yeah, they don't want to hear that again. I mean, at least you're on the board opening your mouth about the Palace Theater.
And others, things.
And I know a lot of other things, but there's nobody else that talks about the Palace Theater on the board, right?
No.
No, you're the only one that has any type of concern, and anybody that really starts to peel back the layers of the onion here, they could see what's going on in the city of Waterbury concerning the Palace Theater, concerning their connection with the Board of Ed, with the city side, and everything else. And
Don't forget who owns the Palace,
yeah,
the city.
the city. It's just like
The
city-
Palace Theater Group is in there on agreement, to do the productions, et cetera. But, the city of Waterbury owns it.
They own the Palace, they own the schools, they own City Hall, they own the Chase Building. It's a city building, and unfortunately,
Not treated as such.
no, it's not treated as such, and everybody's left out in the cold. I mean,
I think most people probably don't even realize the city owns it.
no, they don't.
I really don't.
And I've said it several times, is once it reopened, it was their mission, the Palace Theater Group mission, is to basically shut us all out. There's no shows for the black community, there's no shows for the Hispanic community, rock and roll shows. They're all shut out. It's just they want to do their Broadway stuff and these little jazz nights with 50 people, and they consider that a show. And that's the way it's been now for 21 years.
I did see Casey and the Sunshine Band recently there, though.
How were they?
Casey is probably beyond prime. Let me just put it that way. He struggled to get around the stage a little bit.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, well, he's in his 70s.
Yeah.
He's quite a bit, even admittedly overweight. But you know what? it wasn't about that. It was, you know, and look, we could talk about the business side of the palace.
Right.
It should be and can be our gem.
It should be, right?
Right? It was really the original plan, right? That's your gem. So I love the palace. It's a beautiful facility.
Yeah.
What they do for WAMS as far as you know, having some people around, or they do some sit downs when certain acts come to town. You know, our kids will go in and have their own performance of some of the plays. So, I mean, I'm not 100% critical of the surroundings of the palace, but on the business side of things, I have my concerns.
Yeah. Well, you're on the Board of Ed, but as a taxpayer and a resident of the city of Waterbury, I mean, like you said, it's a gem and it's always in the dark. Palace is in the dark and downtown is dead. It correlates together.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very, very...
Restaurants come and go.
Restaurants...
We have some great pizza downtown, but...
Yeah, well, that's about it. That, and as I think Frank Tavares said he wants a place to go get a Slim Jim. I mean, it needs to change.
Yeah.
And I know the mayor, he has no interest in changing it. He told me
I haven't
nothing would
talked to him
change.
about it, but-
I did. He said, he looked at me in the face and said, nothing's going to change. And it's hard to believe. I mean, who is he working for? Who is he protecting? I mean, is it to the benefit of the taxpayers and the residents of the city to keep that theater dark night after night? I mean, the entire summer, they didn't have one show. June 14th to September 26th, 104 days, they did not have one show at that theater. How does that make any sense?
Yeah. I understand. Like I said, you know, my big thing has always been the business side, and I know it's a nice utilization for our students at WAMS because
Sure.
that is what they do. My own granddaughter has a couple dance performances coming up.
Nice.
But you know, and I'm glad the graduations are now there.
Big thrill for the kids to walk on the stage of the palace.
Absolutely,
It has to be.
Absolutely.
Looking up at that dome up above, a beautiful,
And
beautiful theater.
You know, we've done it in the high school auditoriums in the past. I wish we would even give the adult ed, because that's a big thing for me, is to go to the adult ed graduations, and it's a party, you know. But we're still doing it in the high schools and stuff. And when we do it at Kennedy for the adult ed, the auditorium and the balcony is packed. It's standing room only.
Really?
Oh, the families
At
come
Kennedy?
out. You know, we usually graduate about 100 people out of the adult ed program, and it's a fascinating night, and I love going to it.
That's
But
great.
it may, you know, maybe they deserve a night at the palace as
Sure
well.
they do. Why not?
I mean, they and I always compliment them, saying, "Look, I know tomorrow you're going to work,
Yeah.
and you came back and got your high school diploma."
Yeah,
We've had people that
that's
are
big.
new citizens came and got their high school diplomas. You know, it's just an amazing night. Amazing night.
Okay, well, we'll shift gears.
Sure.
We talked about the palace. We now have a new superintendent, Darren Schwartz. When I was filming the board meetings, were you there when I was filming?
Yes, it was.
That's right. Yeah, I was filming the Board of Ed meetings, I think, for about 10, 12 years. It was a great time because you guys had buffet. Paul Goudon had
That's long gone.
Larry DePillo knocked that out for us.
Well,
I had my son going to do the Board of Aldermen. I did the Board of Ed because you guys had a buffet, so it was...
well, yeah, I just to go back to that though, just to shed a little bit of light on it, and whether it was the right, wrong, different. I was a new board member. What did I know? But we also were doing a lot of building back then.
Right.
You know, we were getting ready to start our planning for Wendell Cross. We were doing the additions in the backside of Kennedy. We had just opened Reed School, so we had
Wallace.
We had Wallace. We were doing a lot of work, you know, right as I was coming on the board.
Career Academy.
Career Academy actually opened the same year I got elected.
Yeah,
We
there
were
really was a
freshmen
lot of
together.
stuff going on now that you bring it
So
up.
people like ONG were basically, in fact, they had office space in the city. We were doing so much work. And it was them who actually put out that food. Because what a lot of people didn't realize, we were having our meetings that you were, and I think you came in once or twice on big issues, but we were actually doing committee meetings for hours before we walked out to do the main meeting. At Career Academy, or at WAMS, we would be in the library doing all kinds of committee meetings,
Yeah, I did do a few.
right? And we would be in there and we were being shown the plans for all this building activity that we were doing. So it was actually O&G. And then when all that broke up, it was kind of like we were spoiled, and we were kind of doing some little things on our own. And I know the aldermen didn't like it, but that's,
They went hungry.
They went hungry. They also admit they meet like 1/5 of what the Board of Education does. We go to classes, we go to all kinds
No,
of
you guys
things.
are busy.
We stay busy.
Every week.
But every we are
Workshop
now
and
down
then
to
meeting.
we are now down to every other week.
Oh,
Which
really?
I don't agree with, because like tonight we have a meeting. Well, we're on. This is Thursday, just so folks at home know. So we're talking on Thursday. We do have a Board Ed meeting this evening, but we also have a special meeting now, because when we do it in 2 weeks, one of the things that bothers me about our meetings, we're getting a little off course here, but we end up with things that are time sensitive, and we end up having a special meeting after the workshops. And I can go on forever about that, but you originally asked about the schools now, Dr. Schwartz.
Yes.
See, you got me off track talking about when you were filming us, but I think you were going to say Dr. Schwartz was a young kid back then.
Yeah, I
coming
remember.
in the door, right?
Right.
I thought
right.
that's where you
yeah,
were going
I think,
with that.
I was filming just, I think, when he came in, and, quiet guy, basically kept to himself, didn't ruffle any feathers.
He was pretty young back then.
Yeah, pretty young back then. He got older quick. In the
He'll
city
get
water-
even older quicker now.
Yeah, now that he's the boss. But what's your feeling about him as superintendent? Do you see any?
Well, I'll tell you,
areas of
going back to
improvement?
when he came in, that was my favorite position, not so much, the ILDs, which came in.
ILDs.
Yeah. it
that was big.
Yeah, well, they
150
weren't with,
each.
they weren't big with me. Let me put it that way. That was Dr. Ouellette, my first superintendent. I warned Darren that I go through superintendents, you better be careful. But so she was the first superintendent I worked with, and she was big on these ILDs, and that's when Darren came to town from Hartford. And so he's on the management side of things. He has worked his way through. He was ILD. He became when Ann Cullinan left and retired. He became the director of curriculum, and he did that for a while. Then he was the assistant superintendent to Dr. Ruffin, and so he's grown on the management side of things. But he has been a classroom teacher. It's not like he came out of nowhere. We actually had someone apply for the job when we hired him that never taught in a classroom. Not sure how we got to the level of being
It's
before
who
the
you
Board
know.
of Education, but he's from, I don't know, Michigan somewhere. He's one of the national candidates that we brought in. But as far as Dr. Schwartz, I was glad we went with him. He was my first choice right from the get-go. I felt he had the experience. He knew the landscape. He had a good rapport with teachers and administrators, which is a big plus after what we went through with Dr. Ruffin, which there was no respect between the two.
Say that again with Dr. Ruffin?
No, there was no respect from the teachers and administrators.
For Ruffin?
None at all. At the end.
Really? Why is
None
that?
at all. She stayed in her office. She didn't really do a lot. She had her core of people. There's administrators, which are decent level administrators in the Chase building, that she didn't even recognize they were walking down the hallway. So, and it flowed down. It always does. When the top gets,
Yeah.
it moves its way down.
Quickly.
And quickly. And we kind of staved it off a little bit. Actually, when Mayor Paranuski came in, he helped do it, was we were probably a day from loss of confidence letters from both the SAWB, which is Administrators Union, and WTA. That's how bad it got at the end.
That's how bad it got.
As much as it became public, it was worse out of the public eye at the end. I was a big proponent to move on. I felt the city needed it. She had good programs in some cases. I won't take it away from her. But the programs, they don't run themselves, and if you lose confidence in the ranks, those good programs won't get run right. It's just human nature, okay? So Dr. Schwartz comes in. I was very happy. I was very honest with him when the process started, saying, I don't know who's gonna walk through the door. I said, you are my favorite candidate. However, I do not know who's gonna apply for this, right? If Babe Ruth walks through the door, you gotta give that person due diligence to see
course.
if they're the right person. So I was honest with them that he was my favorite. However, I was gonna go in open-minded. And if a different person came through the door, that I thought could do a better job than him, then I was going to go with that person. I owed it to the city. I owed it to the students. He was heads and tails above anyone who came through the door to talk to us. So from the candidates we received, he was absolutely the right choice. And we did do a national search. I think he has good thoughts. And again, the programs that are in place are great. He's starting some new programs, one of which is we're now taking the kids who are expelled or close to, or done things close to being expelled, which we would put in this enlightenment program over at the old St. Lucy's building. And it would mix in with kids who had special needs and others, and it was just not the right thing to do, have them all in the same building. So he now has an expulsion hide that he does, and it gives not only the education, which by law we have to teach these children, somehow, some way. We don't have a choice. But they're now out of open environments and in their own environment. And so far it's been good. The attendance is actually quite good, which was always a problem, when they're in a mixed group. So they're doing well, they're doing their studies. Of course, in that sort of situation, we have to start working on some life skills, because that's what's missing. And it's unfortunately becoming our job to do that. We could probably do a whole show on that.
Yeah, I could imagine. But as far as Schwartz is concerned, I mean, he's been in the system before he became superintendent for 10, 15 years?
10 years.
10 years. So he understood the system, he understood the people, he understood the politics.
That's the big one.
That's the big one.
At his level.
At his level. Because when you get somebody applying to the city of Waterbury, and they don't know the politics, they're in for a very rude awakening.
You'd be surprised how much homework superintendent candidates do, if they're a current superintendent, because they felt that. They felt the good and the bad side of working the politics, because you can't work it to your favor. Superintendents, in their own little way, are politicians.
You have to be.
And because if they want to grow and go to larger districts, they're going to have to work the politics. It's just the way of the world. And I do believe our politics in Waterbury, as well as I'm sure on the street, Darren being a hometown favorite for the job, there was probably candidates that didn't apply, because we really didn't get a lot of applications.
Had what, 3 or 4? I forget.
Well, we see that number. We actually had 7 that got dropped to 6. The new charter, we used to get presented the final 5. The new charter bumped it to 7. If the new charter did anything to make me happy, the 7's okay. I don't have a problem with 7. We don't have to do 7. What it did not do, which I'm not a fan of, I'm not sure of your opinion on it, the superintendent's job is a civil service position, not just a hire. That also makes candidates not want to apply.
Why?
Well, there's egos. You got egos. You got doctors of this, doctors of that.
And they don't wanna
you got
go
all
through
this
civil
education,
service.
and they're like, "You're going to make me take a civil service test?" So yeah, it's
beneath them.
It's ego. I'll stick with ego.
There's a lot of that running around.
There is a lot of that running around. But if you're going to play the politics games, you got to have a little bit too. So I think we lost some. I don't know what kind of candidates. I'm just saying we lost some candidates because we didn't have a big number. I think we only had about 15 people apply for the job, where typically you would see dozens.
Yeah. But I mean, he was qualified. Darren
He was
Schwartz
absolutely qualified.
He was qualified. He knew the system. Like you said, unless you had Babe Ruth or somebody walking on water walking through the door.
Yeah. But I was open to that happening.
Well, you have to be.
Yeah.
You don't want to be a fool. I mean,
Right.
miss out on a potential.
Strange things was he wasn't a unanimous choice at our vote, which it did bother me.
That is surprising. What was it, 8-2?
Yeah.
And, I think I heard because he wasn't a minority.
No, they would certainly not publicly wouldn't say that.
Well, I'll say it, but that's what I heard.
There could have been something I can't answer for the people who voted no.
What was their thinking?
What they said publicly was they thought he wasn't ready.
He wasn't ready. What do you need, another 20, 30 years to get ready?
was not in their head, I don't
Be
know.
older than us?
Well, then they better retire.
Then they better go sit in the rocking chair on the porch.
But I can't speak for what's in their head and what they thought.
What are some of his major goals that he's trying to do here in the system?
Because he has learned the landscape of Waterbury. He lives in Waterbury.
He does?
He lives in Waterbury. He lives in Waterbury. He has a child that will probably be going to preschool soon, young child. He's committed to that degree of the city of Waterbury. He's putting his money where his mouth is, if you want to say it that way. He lives in the city, absolutely. He has done a great deal of work by going out into the city and being at events. And when you have a small child, as you know, when our kids were little, which was a long time ago, it's hard to, I don't know if I could have been this politician I am today when I had small children, but he's being at events and
You're
doing
too busy
things.
at the ball field, that's why.
Well, I did do a little bit of coaching, didn't I?
You had fun.
I
though.
did do a little
We
bit of
had
coaching.
fun back in the day with
Yes,
the kids.
we did. Yes, we did. Coach your kids and a lot of others.
Yeah.
Over the years.
Yeah.
But, and then I moved on to this world. But I definitely think Dr. Swartz is committed in the things you don't see. Okay, and that's big. That's big. When he's at the community event that, well, the Republican American isn't anywhere anymore, but the cameras aren't on, the lights aren't on,
and he's still there.
he's there.
Yeah.
He puts in a lot of hours.
That's somebody who's committed.
He's very committed. To the point that I was with him the other night, what we knew was going to be a long evening on something we're working on. And he, at around 8 o'clock, took a time out because he had to say goodnight to his kids. He has 3 kids.
Wow.
And he had to say goodnight to his kids, and he took a time out from what we're doing. And he made those phone calls to say goodnight to his kids and talk to his kids before they went to bed.
Wow.
He
Very committed.
He is a very committed man.
Great asset.
He is, and he, like I said, when the lights aren't on, the bright lights aren't on, and he's still working, he's here to do the job.
Wow.
And I said to him, I said, also, he's a young man. I mean, he's not the typical hire 65, 70-year-old superintendent who's been around the block. He's a young man, small family. And I said, the average life of a superintendent in a larger district is 4 years, nationwide.
4 years.
4 years, average. And because you only have so many ideas. You only have so many things to bring to the table. And you're balancing a lot of, a lot of balls in the air. And he says, that's fine, but I want to do it longer.
Wants to make
When
something
someone
happen.
at that age gets a district the size of Waterbury under his belt, 19,000 students, that doesn't go down like every other district. Look at even in the Litchfield Hills, they're merging schools because they don't have the students. And
Maybe we should send some over.
well, I love the magnet schools to do a better job of filling their seats. That's another subject if you want to talk about. But as far as Dr. Swartz, I think we have the right person in the job.
Yeah. I believe it too. I think he's the best candidate. And to hear that he lives in the city of Waterbury, that's almost incredible. I don't know when the last superintendent we
Dr.
had.
Ruffin actually bought a home here.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear too.
But she came from out of town. She had to buy a home somewhere. But she
Yeah,
did,
had to live somewhere.
But she did buy it in Waterbury. I'll give her that.
Good for that. Okay, I know something. I had Rafael Feliciano. He just got elected to the Board of Aldermen. He was on last week, and I brought up the subject of, separating the kids based on behavior and ability in the schools. He wasn't in favor of that. I brought up the example that last school year, at the end of the year, Kennedy High School, one day they had riots, fights, whatever you want to call it, 11 suspended. The next day it continued, 6 suspended. Would you let those kids back into the school? And he said he would. What's your thought on that?
Well, that's why I like to use expulsion high.
And where is Expulsion High?
We use part of the Enlightenment School because there's not a lot of kids in it, and it fluctuates. I mean, you come out of expulsion, I mean, it's not a life sentence,
Right.
right? So at some point, they will be back in their school. But I feel if you do something that warrants arrest, then you should be arrested. I've said it from day one. I know it's not a popular opinion, but it's mine. I think the expulsion high helps us a lot.
So if you get arrested, would you let them back in?
Well, they're expelled.
So if you get arrested, you're expelled.
If it's a school-based arrest, yes.
And then once you're-
Or you could also be suspended, depending on what it is. But you're either going to have a out-of-school suspension, which you're not really out of school. We try to also deal with those kids in isolated areas, not in the general population. I hate to use that term for high schools, but it's basically what it is. So we deal with suspensions a little different. Even when it's thought of as out-of-school suspension, again, by law, we have to teach those children, and we should. It's not going to do them or us any good if we just stop teaching them,
Right.
or at least attempting to teach them. So we do separate. It's not a matter of if you do something as serious as a large fight, because a lot goes into those large fights. That's not you bump my shoulder walking down the hallway fight. These are fights that have been planned out.
gangs.
Gangs.
Because I heard there was like a Kennedy gang, a Crosby gang, a
Well,
Wilkie gang.
there's
that
the city
beat
gangs.
each other.
You're
City
not
gangs.
stopping what's going on the streets from coming into our school buildings. If it's out there, it's coming in.
But you got to stop it once
You
it
got
comes
to
in.
stop it once it comes in when something happens.
So those kids last year at Kennedy, did they get arrested?
There were, I think, 9 arrests in that fight. I'm not. That's
So
off the
did
top
they
of my
go to
head.
expulsion high?
We didn't have it then, but they would have gone into an expulsion program. We have formalized basically the expulsion program by doing it within our own walls. I mean, they could get a out of school suspension or expulsion, but then we're sending teaching materials to the house. But we know that's probably not going to happen, which is why we want to take it under our own wing,
Which makes sense.
which makes sense. And that's Dr. Swartz's plan. He's the one who's instituting that.
Yeah, and I know something that struck me years and years ago. Joe McCurry, at the time, I think he was a math teacher or something, Crosby
Mm-hmm.
High School. He was on the radio, and he said something that
He's now a superintendent.
Yeah, he's now a superintendent. And he said something on the radio with Ed Flynn at the time that I'll never forget. He said the top 5% at Crosby High School, testing-wise, were equal to the top 5% of Fairfield.
I wouldn't doubt it.
And I
We're
was
sending kids
just,
to Ivy League schools.
I was just blown away by that. Like, oh my God, because all we really talk about and deal with is at the bottom, the problems, the expulsion, everything else. We never talk about the kids at the top.
I'm glad you said that percentage that he said back then, because since I've been on the board, I have had a term which used to get chuckles, and now people are waiting for me to say it. And I call kids, when they do things well, I call my 95 percenters. And because I say 95% of our students just want to come to school. They're not on the honor roll. They're not in honors classes. They may be struggling to pass, but they just want to come and get an education. They just want to come and follow the rules. They just want to come and be part of a high school in that experience that you talk about for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
How cool is it when you say, oh, if you're with your kids or whatever, this is Joe Smo, I went to high school with him,
Yeah.
right? That's all they want.
Yeah.
95, no, my 95 percenters.
Well, I know,
And as far as top of the class,
yep,
we typically, at most schools, we do send kids off to Ivy League schools,
yeah,
as well as the little Ivies, if you want to call them that, right? The,
Sure.
the Trinities in Hartford and many others around the country.
Another thing that struck me over the years was when my wife worked at Rotella, and she'd go to parties and bring me to this and out, some of the teachers, whatever, and I'd always talk to them because I had
The old Rotella.
the old Rotella, because I always even the new Rotella, and I would always talk to them, the teachers, when I'd run into them. She'd introduce me to so and so, and I'd say, okay, I say, tell me about the school. Tell me about the problems in the school. And every one of them would say the same thing. If you took out the 25 worst kids in the school, you would have a completely different school.
I used to say all the time, and I would never be able to get the numbers. They would never give me the numbers. I used to say, when we had a lot of arrests and it was making the headlines because we would lead the state, but we would lead the state because the others weren't reporting per the state laws.
If you take a crime and don't call it a crime anymore, there's no crime.
But, and I said, but okay, tell me, just for a number. I'm not saying this is a number, just a number to do for conversational reasons. Say we have 50 arrests. I would always go, well, how many kids make up those 50 arrests? They never give me the answer.
10.
If it's 10, okay, they got 5 each. So don't tell me we have 50 arrests, because when you look at the big picture, we have 10 kids. We didn't arrest 50 kids.
Yeah, you got 50 arrests by 10 kids or whatever the number is.
It's a conversational number because it was never given to me. I could never get them to tell me how many kids made up those
Why do
arrests.
you think that is?
I don't know. It sounds like something that should be out there, but I think there was enough of a groundswell to stop the arrest based on it being arrest. And I get it, the school to jail pipeline that people talk about, but these kids weren't going to jail. Yeah, they were getting a disorderly conduct, this, that, and the other thing. We weren't sending. If kids got sent to jail, they belonged to go to jail. We were not doing a pipeline to jail. And I'll probably, there'll be people that angrily will disagree with me with those comments, but I'll go back to my 95 percenters.
Well, let's say the 50 arrests equals 10 kids. What do you do with those 10 kids?
Then you're talking the expulsion high, which is doing now. Or, like I said, we have to teach them, right? Have to teach them. Sending material home, I don't think was winning that battle, which is why I like what we're doing now. Unless it's like tremendously, where you don't even want them in an expulsion high, which we haven't had any of that, thank goodness. I like the way we're doing it now. We keep the kids in school. We keep them with formal education. Again, they're not going to do themselves or us any good not being educated in the time while we get them to understand that they can't do what they did.
Sure. And, I've been a landlord in Waterbury for the last 42 years, inner city. Just about every inner city neighborhood I've had property. I see the way these kids are raised. Probably 95% of the time, it's not the kids' fault, their behavior, it's the way they were raised, which is a major issue. But why not take, if I'm being told like at Rotella, 25 kids would change the complexion of the school, why not take those kids out, 25 at Rotella, 30 at Carrington, 15 at Kingsbury? Why not take all these kids that are causing this disruption, put them in a different setting, which you'll probably, like you said, you got to give them life skills, brushing your teeth, combing your hair, adding money, whatever it is.
That's what State Street School is.
Now, I heard something that Dawn and Steve were saying one night. I don't know if it's State Street School, is that Enlightenment?
No, they're two different schools.
Well, one of the schools, they say absenteeism's like at 87%.
That is true.
So you have
I don't know if it's 87, but it's
you have a
very
full
high.
school of principal, vice principal, teachers, custodian, and nobody's there.
The problem with that is, and I talk about that a lot, actually.
That's good to hear.
We have, say, again, conversational numbers, 80 kids assigned to the school. 25 show up on an average. And you're saying we staff it. Yes, we staff it. Because we have to be prepared for that day that probably will never come, that all 80 walk through the door.
You got a better chance of winning lotto.
Probably so.
So what do you do?
Well, we have to maintain that school. We don't have a choice in that. Would it
It's
be
kind of crazy, though, to have such a large budget for a school where it's constantly empty, and I'm sure you got everybody there like this. They're like this all day long, looking at their phone, scrolling, looking at videos, because they got nothing to do.
In some ways, it's a question next time if you do get one of our state reps on a program, because we have so many unfunded, and I like our state reps, I really do. We have so many unfunded mandates that we have to follow, and this is, of course, part of that. It's unfunded. Well, it's kind of a contradictory term, right? It's funded by us.
Yeah, we're funding
They
it.
do the mandate.
Yeah, we fund it.
We fund it.
Yeah, we fund it, and you basically get zero return because nobody's in school.
But the laws say we have to teach these children, and a seat has to be there.
I understand all that, but I mean, you got to put them in different settings. To me, it doesn't make sense to, to have good kids.
They have to come to school to get them in a setting.
Right, but
And we have attendance counselors. We have some principals that do knock on doors, believe it or not.
well, that was my next question. I always said that, especially a lot of these inner city schools, that you almost need a police educator. And all they do is knock on doors all day
Well,
long.
the old-fashioned truant officer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
knock on the door.
We have attendance counselors that go through
Hi,
those
Mrs. Van
processes.
Stone, your son Tom hasn't gone to school for the last week. What's going on? Oh, geez, are you guys selling drugs in here? What's that smell over here?
Well, that would take a particular type of person, right?
Right,
that's
but if you,
educated.
and I gave the example last week to Feliciano that, I had
Now you're talking DCF stuff, which that they have their
but
own
if you got to
problem.
get him involved, you got to straighten this nonsense
we have a hotline to DCF.
But,
trust
I
me.
gave an example last week that I had an apartment years and years ago, young couple with a baby, slobs, disgusting in there. Cigarette butts, pizza, dog crap all over the place, this and that. And then they called me up one day in a panic. Said, Andy, could you come over here? We want to do something with our dining room floor. I said, really? I went over. The place was spotless. I said, holy shit,
know why.
what happened here? And they got a knock on the door. It was DCF. This place is a pig pen. You got 1 week to clean it up. And you know what they did? They cleaned it up. So, to me, you need a knock on the door.
We do some of that. It's a big task.
Well, I think you got to have devoted people. That's all they do every day. Like you said, a truant officer. Where's your kid?
We have attendance counselors that deal with some of that, and we are door knocking. We are out there looking for these kids. Some kids we haven't seen since COVID.
But if you knocked on the door and said, listen, your place is a freaking pig pen over here.
Well, if that is spotted, there's an obligation.
Health department's coming.
Well, there's
if
an
you don't clean it up, you're going to have problems.
Anyone in that type of work has a legal obligation to make that call.
Yep. Knock on the
And
door.
it does happen.
You knock on the door. What do you mean? You're selling drugs in here? I come back tomorrow, I see this, everybody in this apartment's going to jail. If you did that, to me, you'd flip the whole thing. You're still going to get people that are going to say, they don't care what you do. Put them in handcuffs, drag them away, whatever you want to do.
But keep in mind, there's more to that with kids that aren't coming to school. And it is the discipline problem. The 5%ers that are causing the disruption are also causing the attendance problem we have,
Sure.
without a doubt.
And most of the time, it's not the kid's fault.
It's a bigger picture than just the kid skipping school.
Right.
The skipping school days are not a non-conversation, to be quite honest. If someone skips one day, you pick your battles.
Well, I mean,
But-
I learned to do that sophomore year at Crosby. I almost stayed back because I skipped too many times.
But
I learned.
The chronic absenteeism is a very, very high on our list of things to take on. Now, that's not something other than if it's mentioned and we maybe get, the person running that program comes before us and shows what they've been doing, tells us about their home visits, et cetera. There's so much that goes on, especially at our workshops. It's a lot of data.
Yeah.
Right? It's a lot.
It's a lot of information.
I mean,
you got.
we get a package can be thousands of pages prior to a meeting. We have that data. We are doing that legwork. Maybe the public doesn't see it in action, but it's going on.
That's good to hear. Tom, we got a few minutes left. Is there something you want to bring up, talk about quickly?
I think in our school system, because it is, we're getting big numbers with various students that require special education. And it goes from
Send them to Waterbury.
small, well, that's happening. Believe me, that's happening
I know.
because we have a good program.
Sure.
All right. We pride ourselves on the fact that we have one of the lowest numbers, if right not now the lowest number of outsettings for our special ed students from the major cities. And we're proud of that. And it's difficult That's a very difficult thing to maintain because you have to have, the reason kids do get sent out of district is because we don't have the skills to take care of that child. And you'd be amazed at what some of these children need, and they will always be sent out. And we're responsible, until they're 20 years old. It's not like 17-year-old high school students. We're responsible until that point. And actually, it's a little older. And some of these students that are actually getting sent out are costing us a couple $100,000 a year. And transportation's a big part of that. That's why our busing budget has gone from when I was first on the board at about $9 million. We're now doing about $20 million in transportation cost.
Transportation.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. That's operating budget. Okay. So the old days of saying it, go buy more pencils, it's really way at the end of the line,
We'll
unfortunately.
get more gas for the bus.
Well, we do propane now, so.
We'll get more
We're running
propane.
propane. That could
the
change.
solar
We're
panels running.
actually getting ready to send out an RFP for busing now. And I know there's a lot of parents who would like to see us get a different company. But believe it or not, no one's bidding on these contracts. Bus companies are disappearing. But back to my point, special education, yes, it costs us a lot of money. Yes, there's a lot of students that have, individual plans that we have to deal with. The kid that kid deserves an education just like any other student in our system. I'm proud to say that our unified sports is one of the most popular activities of all our students. We have students coming out of Woodwork to partake in it. At Wilby, it's the highest volunteerism by a student is to support the unified sports program, which is now part of the NVL and part of the CIAC.
What is that, unified sports?
Unified sports is when you take your special education students who want to do athletics, but they need a partner. We have more kids volunteering that are from the regular population of the school to go with the special education population of the
nice.
school to actually form teams. And they're seasonal. They do basketball. They do everything Special Olympics does. And our kids help coach and guide those kids. And our kids are coming out of Woodwork to support it. It's helping our special education students be part of the hallways
Yep,
because now they're just another kid.
yep.
Protection as well, right?
Good
got-
program.
You got a couple football players that are part of unified sports. That kid's going to walk down the hall feeling a lot safer. That's just us being in inner city saying the truth,
Sure,
being
honest.
honest.
Wow.
That's just the way it is, right?
Wow.
It was like that when we were in high school.
Yep.
You always kind of want to have a football player next to you.
Yeah, Crosby, we did.
Right?
He had the
You
bleacher
did.
bumps up top.
So,
We made friends with the football
Sure
players.
you did. And it had its, it's a little extra,
Yeah.
get a little extra there. But our special ed students deserve to be in the schools. We could probably have a special ed school. It was actually in the past discussed often to actually do, say, I'm making this term up, a special ed magnet.
Yeah.
And yes, we could do something like that. There's a lot of hoops to jump through to be able to pull it off, but it could be done.
Something to consider.
There's programs around that just do special ed, and that's
Right.
where we send them out, obviously.
Sure.
But special ed's a big part of that I really want to help with those kids. I have it in my family.
Absolutely.
Grandchildren that have special needs.
No child left behind.
And, well, we don't call it that, and I don't want to call it that, but it's really what it is. But
All right, Tom.
that was a fast hour, wasn't it?
That was a fast hour, and you do a lot of talking.
You do a lot of talking.
No, you do a lot of talking. We'll have to do this again. Yeah, I'd like to have you on periodically.
I would love to do it.
We could do a half-hour show, hour show, bring us information, what's going on at the board. I know you said you'd like to talk during the budgets. I think it would be great. The more information that we could bring to the people of Waterbury, the better for all of us.
And I like to share this behind-the-scenes stuff like I was telling you about.
Yeah.
Things are going on that people think we're not doing.
Yeah, and we need to hear that.
Okay. We are doing things.
Well, I'm so glad that you won re-election. You're a tremendous asset to the Board of Ed, the City of Waterbury. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm glad you came on the show today. So we're going
Thanks
to
for
do it
having me.
again. We're going to do it again.
Will do.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up. This edition of Taking It Back to the Streets. My name is Andy Michaud with Tom Van Soen, Sr. Thanks a lot for watching.